broadcasting for a worldwide audience.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. You are listening to Radio Lewes, where the music matters.
I'm lucky this week.
And I've done that again. I hate that CD. I'm Ben Fuller. This is Saturday Live here on Radio Lewes. And this is a bit of an impromptu show, I have to say. I got in this morning and realised I'd forgotten to prepare any music whatsoever. So I had to dig around in my bag and found a load of CDs. So it's a bit of a potluck playlist. A lot of classic rock, I think. We'll have all the other usual stuff. We'll have the shameless self-promotion. We do love to blow our own trumpet. I'll have the gig guide. We'll have a bit of news and weather and the sports news and whatever else I can think of in the meantime. Let's just get cracking with some great old classic music. Status Quo's only UK number one single that spent a week at the top of the chart in January 1975. From the album On The Level. Mind you, when you're talking about Quo albums, it's hard to tell them apart. I will say that. I don't play Quo very much, but it's great to hear an old classic now and again. I much prefer this next track. From 1982 and the album The Gift of Felicity, that was The Jam. And a town called Malice, part of a double A-side single. The other side was Precious. There you go. I've got Rod Stewart next. I don't very often play Rod Stewart either, but never mind, this is a great tune.
Hot afternoon. Since you've been gone, it's hard to carry on. I wanna write about the birthday gown that I bought in town. When you sat down and cried on the stairs, you knew it didn't cost the earth, but for what it's worth, you made me feel a millionaire, and you wear it well. Madam Onassis got nothing on you, no, no. Anyway, my coffee's cold and I'm getting told that I gotta get back to work. So when the sun goes low and you're home all alone, think of me and try not to laugh, and I'll wear it well. I don't object if you call collect, 'cause I ain't forgetting that you were once mine, but I blew it without even trying. Now I'm eating my heart out, trying to get back to you. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Oh yeah. After all this, oh, it's the same address. Since you've been gone, it's hard to carry on.
Can't mistake that voice, can you? Rod Stewart. From 1972, You Wear It Well on the album Never a Dull Moment. Now I'm going to play a bit of our shameless self-promotion, and Si's got a theory about the one I'm going to play, because he thinks I always play it when I need to leave the studio for something, or if I've run out of things to say. I want a cup of tea, so I'm going to give you the time to get mobbed. I'm joined in the studio with our very own King Mob. Steve Parsons, welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Tell us a little bit about King Mob. Who is he?
Who is King Mob? King Mob is a kind of it's a semi-fictional character. The first, I think, recorded King Mob was like with a situationist in Paris in the last century. And he's generally considered to be a subversive figure. He's whatever society is for, King Mob's for the opposite. So when I do King Mob, and I also, as you know, I had a King Mob beat group 5 or 6 years ago. I look at everything from the point of view of it has to go through a King Mob filter. Would King Mob do this? Would King Mob like that? What would King Mob? It's not particularly my taste. Sometimes I find King Mob's taste in things is slightly different from mine. But if you take on the character, like any good actor or whatever, you've got to go right through with it. And so that's what I do.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I know you, obviously, as King Mob. I also know about the band King Mob, and I know that you've been in Sharks, but I don't know, and our listeners won't know much about you unless they follow Sharks and whatever information's out there. So tell us about...
Oh, you mean my actual background?
Tell us a little bit about Steve Parsons.
Okay, well, when I was 15 years old, I found out I could sing like black American soul singers quite well. Much to my surprise, and started working in beat groups in the 60s. In Yorkshire, where I lived in Bridlington, and in those days, a 15-year-old, 16, 17, 18-year-old boy could make a lot of money. I was good, and we played in bands. Everybody wanted live bands in those days. Pubs wanted live bands, working men's clubs, theatres, all sorts of stuff. And they would pay you. And nowadays, it's real hard for young groups to make a living out of making music. I was making a decent living out of music when I was 15, 16, 17, 18. Then at the end of that, you kind of think, well, I have to do something with this to make it into a full-time thing. And I got the offer to sing with Sharks, which was supposed to be a supergroup. Andy Fraser, the bass player, had written All Right Now. Chris Spedding, the guitar player, was the up-and-coming guitar player. High hopes for the band. So I thought, well, I'll go for that. And that was an interesting mistake.
Really?
Well, sort of. I never regret it. You know, I had other offers before Sharks to go up to London, which was the big deal. When you're in the provinces, you know, living in Hull, the move to London had to be right. Well, Sharks offered me everything. Offered me money, recording contract, excellent musicians to play with. Now, the fact that it turned into a kind of monumental car crash, aided and abetted by ourselves, and massive greed from everybody, and, you know, it was a 2-year crash and burn, out of which I got a great relationship with Chris Spedding, and that's lasted through the years. I went on after that. I played with Ginger Baker. I did solo albums. Spedding produced one of my solo albums during that period. When he was a solo performer, I wrote material for him. And then in the 80s, I moved into the field of applied music for film and television, which is where you just take commissions. They've got a film or a project or a TV show. They need music, and it gets handed to you, and you work with people. I became a backroom guy, and I sat there for many years. Nobody knew the hell I was, but more people heard my music in those 24 years than have ever heard it as a performer.
I'm sure they did.
I used to sit there and you know, when you had TV ads, you back in those days, millions of people were hearing your music. It was quite satisfying in a weird way.
So you sort of came full circle. You came back to the band.
Yeah, I came after I decided to sort of knock that on the head, which was probably about 12 years ago. I went bad for about 6 or 7 years, and I lived in Dalston and with inappropriate women, and burned most of the money that I'd made, which was quite a lot. Had a, you know, and then after that, you can only do that for a certain length of time. It lasted about 6 or 7 years, and I thought, well, better, you know, let's get back to doing something that might actually be life-fulfilling and generate income. So I moved back into bands, and King Mob was the first sign of that. And then I co-produced with Spedding his all-star album Joyland, and then that led kind of to Sharks. So, and we're now on Sharks' second album and have done a fair amount of dates, played Germany, Japan, UK, Sweden. Life is fun. I'll be 67 in 2 weeks, and I'm still fit enough to sing and perform.
Well, I haven't got your energy at 43, so you're doing exceptionally well. Tell us a little bit about what the King Mob show is about, because it's always at least loosely themed.
Yeah, well, you've got to have a theme. I mean, in that way, you know, it's more or less the same as when I do music. I'll start with a theme and an idea, but if other things come into that and change it that I think are either interesting or funny or satisfying or just sometimes plain mischievous, then I will. I think the King Mob radio show it's a shape that will bend a lot of different ways. You know, as you know, I've done reggae, I've done Jeff Beck, I've done songs of pirates in the sea. I've done, you know, got a long list of themes at home, and I just keep adding to it. And then as each week develops, I pick the theme early on in the week, and then just let it mull around in my head, play a few tracks, just check stuff on the internet, check on YouTube, just feel around, really, until I get what I consider is a nice shape for a show that I can also tell some amusing gags or stories from my life, or, I mean, just anything that I think other people would find interesting.
Well, other people certainly do find it interesting. You've got one of the highest regular listenerships on Radio Lewes. I'm very thankful for that. Steve, thank you so much for giving me your time. We'll speak soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Live
From 1988, that was In Excess, new sensation. From the album Kick, it was the third single from the album. It made number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the States, number 9 in Australia, number 25 in the UK, and number 8 on the album Rock Tracks in the US. Should have done a bit better in the UK. I think that's a great tune, that one. And before that, of course, the wonderful Steve Parsons, a.k.a. King Mob, telling us about himself and the King Mob show. And there will be a new King Mob show published this afternoon at 5 p.m. I think it's a story of trad jazz this week. There'll be some surprises along the way. You'll learn something, you really will. More music now. This is Rainbow. From 1981, Rainbow's I Surrender. And that was from the album Hypnosis. And it was their highest charting single in the UK. It reached number 3. and it was the first album to feature Jolyn Turner. I'm going to get my teeth in, I think. Formerly of Fandango, and he sang over already completed musical tracks. Because of this, he was singing in higher keys than he would do normally. Anyway, it's a great album and a great tune. I was going to play you one more, but I'm going to do the gig guide instead. It's 10:30. And tonight, Kit Trigg, he's at the Lansdowne. Blues Rock, 7:30, and it's a free one. And Jez Lowe, Geordie folk guitar, mandolin, harmonica, does a lot. At the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m, and that one's £8 a ticket. Sunday the 9th sees Rome, Latin Swing and Blues Jam at the Royal Oak, 7 p.m, and that one's free. And Peter Bruntnell, Americana at the Con Club at 7:30, and that one's £12. Monday the 10th sees Raul d'Oliveira's Quinto, Jazz at the Snowdrop, 8 p.m, and that one's our favourite price. Tuesday the 11th, Concertina's Anonymous Practice Session, Folk and Miscellaneous at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m, and that one's free. Wednesday the 12th sees Los Kramer, Energetic Balkan Mexican Gypsy Swing at the Lansdowne, 7:30, and again, our favourite price. Saturday the 15th sees Don Letts with his DJ set at the Con Club at 7:30. Tickets are £15, and Si still has a few. 8 at the last count, I believe. He'll probably contact me if there's a change in the numbers on that one, but 8 left was the last one I had. And Charlie Quinnell, English and Scottish unaccompanied folk at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m, and that's £6 a ticket. That's Saturday the 15th. Sunday the 16th, Sepia Shadows, Sunday in the Bar Session with a mix of blues, jazz and R&B at the Con Club at 3 p.m, and that one's free. Monday the 17th sees Josephine Davis, Spike Wells and Nigel Thomas, Jazz at the Snowdrop, 8 p.m, and again it's free. Saturday the 22nd sees Sandra Kerr at the Elephant and Castle at 8 p.m, £9 a ticket. If you know the name, she's most famous for the songs and music for Bagpuss. Everybody loves Bagpuss. And she's a very fine concertina player as well. And she will also be doing a workshop on concertina playing and singing on the 23rd. Sunday the 23rd. Where did I get to? Supernatural Things, Funk, Soul and Blues at the Royal Oak at 8 p.m, and that one's free again. That's Saturday the 22nd. Monday the 24th sees Cameron Pierre and Terry Seabrook, Jazz at the Snowdrop, 8 p.m, and free. Tuesday the 25th, English Tunes Practice Session for any instrument. Folk, English traditional stuff at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m, and it's free, and Si's still banned. No kazoo. He really is banned. Saturday the 29th, Capella, folk, old and new, vocal harmony at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m, and £7 a ticket. Or there's the Loose Caboose DJ night featuring 60s soul, northern, R&B, Latin and jazz at the Con Club at 7:30 for £6 a ticket. Or at the Royal Oak, you've got Love Action with Fruitful Sounds, 8 p.m, and that one's £5. Sunday the 30th, Arcelia, Sunday in the Bar Session with Folk and Soul Harmony Trio at the Con Club for 3:30, and that one's free. And in the evening, they've got the Soap Girls, Punk at the Con Club, 7:30, and it's £12 a ticket. And I must also tell you about a couple of events in July. On the 13th, Penetration at the Con Club, and on the 14th, Bad Manners will be there, and that's £22, and you get tickets for both of those gigs from Size Sounds. There's a couple more. They're in September, we won't worry about those. So, an awful lot to do again, music-wise, in Lewes this month, as there always is. You'll find something to amuse you. Let's just have some more music.
But I wanted it that way.
Bachman, Turner Overdrive there from 1974. You ain't seen nothing yet. That gave them the number one position on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart and the Canadian RPM chart the week of November 9th, 1974, as well as earning the band their only major hit single in the United Kingdom, peaking at number 2 on the UK singles chart. Bit of Lynyrd Skynyrd come in next, and everyone knows this. It's brilliant.
1, 2, 3.
Singing songs
Sweet Home Alabama, of course, Lynyrd Skynyrd. First appeared in 1974 on their second album called Second Helping. It reached number 8 on the US charts, and it was the band's second hit single. The song was written in reply to Southern Man and Alabama by Neil Young, who is name-checked in the song's lyrics. Next up, a song I haven't heard in ages. I think there's a reason for that. It's Asia and Don't Cry. That was from 1983, and it gave them their first hit from their second album, Alpha. Excuse me, reached number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 9 on the Cashbox magazine, and it's the band's second top 10 pop hit. I really don't know why. I don't know about Asia, I don't. So in the meantime, we're going to take a bit more shameless self-promotion and a slightly different bit. It's taken a little bit of a time for me to track down Nick Cooper, but I thought it was about time we had another chat about you and a slightly different bit.
Oh, well, you know, I have my other career, but I'm not allowed to talk about MI9 because I have to kill you. Well, what do you want to know, really?
Tell everybody how you got roped into the gang here at Radio Lewes.
Well, it's very simple. My partner, Susan, was working in the kitchen, and she said, you know what, they want somebody to be another DJ. I thought, well, be a DJ. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I can do that. I can play stuff I like, and.
So essentially, you joined us because your missus wanted you out from under her feet for a little while.
Yes, she's always trying to get me out of the house with very good reason. I have a lot of space.
But it's a great excuse to come and have some fun, isn't it? So tell us about the Slightly Different radio show.
Well, I kind of lumber myself with calling it the Slightly Different radio show. I'd really like to call it the Slightly Different wireless programme to give it a really antique-aged feel. Because what I like to do, if possible, is play stuff that people have forgotten about or have never heard. And often there's a good reason it's been forgotten about, and often there's a good reason they never heard it. But it's not always like that. I mean, I do play pop stuff as well, but I do like to, dredge through the archives of ancient jazz and old blues and rhythm and blues stuff when rhythm and blues was rhythm and blues, and some cranky, folky stuff from music from around the world as well. Particularly just fallen in love with the music of Mali recently. I mean, there's some fantastic musicians coming out of Mali.
There's some good rock music comes out of Mali as well. But you do have a sort of liking to play some absolutely atrocious stuff. I'm thinking about Wince of the Week.
Oh, yeah, well, Wince of the Week. I mean, who else is going to play a Barbara Cartland LP or the fabulous Fluffy Where Are You record? I think it's got to be done. People need to, suffer the pain I've suffered. I want to spread their misery around.
Well, you've done that with a couple of records, and there's a good reason why some of them never get played. But it's become a fixture, really, of the show, and the Slightly Different radio show always makes us laugh. It's a great show. Long may it rain, Nick. Thank you very much for your time. We hope you keep going.
Oh, thank you too.
But don't pay it any mind if
From 1989, taken from their second album Velveteen, that was Transvision Vamp and Baby I Don't Care, and it remains their highest selling and charting single. The song peaked at number 3 in both the UK and Australia and came in at number 25 on the Australian End of Year Singles charts in 1989. It was later featured as the title track on the band's 2002 compilation album Baby I Don't Care. It's a great tune. I don't play nearly enough Transvision Vamp, and that's something I'm definitely going to have to pay attention to. Next is another really great classic. I love this.
Now some men lie ammunition, and some men like a violin, and some men like to hear a cannonball rolling. But me, I like sleeping, especially in my mindless chamber. But here I am in prison. Here I am with a ball and chain, yeah. Much a ring, dumma do, dumma da. Wait for my daddy-o. Wait for my daddy-o. There's whiskey in the jar. And I got drunk on whiskey-o. And I love that, love that, love that, love that, love that, and you will, I will never to that old dirty town, that dirty old town.
That was from 1973, Thin Lizzy with their version of the Irish folk song, and it's brilliant. It's just gone 11 o'clock, so let's see if we can get the electronic PA to work. Alexa, can we have the news headlines, please? Alexa, news headlines, please.
Here's your news. In weather, right now in Lewes, it's 13 degrees Celsius with partly sunny skies. Today's forecast is clouds with a chance of showers, with a high of 16 degrees and a low of 10 degrees. From BBC Sports News.
The latest BBC Sport update.
England will look to get back to winning ways at the Cricket World Cup later when they face Bangladesh in Cardiff. The tournament favourites opened with a win against South Africa, but fell to a 14-run defeat to Pakistan on Monday. And despite Bangladesh being 8th in the ODI rankings and England top, Captain Owen Morgan says today will be far from simple.
It's going to be a difficult game. They're a good side. I think people underestimate them. We certainly don't. They're a side that has played a lot of cricket. Their senior players especially have played a lot of games, even more so than our senior players. So they are a threat, but hopefully we can play well and overcome it.
Build-up is just underway over on 5 Live Sports Extra. The game is scheduled to start at 10:30. France coach Corinne Diacre says she hopes their 4-0 thrashing of South Korea last night in the opening game of the Women's World Cup in Paris has struck fear into their rivals. The hosts are among the favourites to win the tournament, but ahead of England's first game against Scotland tomorrow, the former England goalkeeper Rachel Brown-Finnis has told 5 Live that Phil Neville's side should be aiming to win it.
The next stage is to go on and win a tournament. I think the least of their expectations is to get to the final and to finish higher than they did 4 years ago. But I think France have set the pace and England need to primarily keep up with that pace.
And you'll be able to watch all 3 of today's World Cup games via the red button. Germany against China will be live on BBC One from 2 o'clock. Eden Hazard will be presented as a Real Madrid player on Thursday. It's after Chelsea agreed a deal to sell the Belgian, which could earn them up to £150 million. Steve Clarke takes charge of Scotland for the first time tonight. That's in the Euro 2020 qualifier at home to Cyprus. They'll be skippered by Andy Robertson a week after winning the Champions League with Liverpool.
Once you get a feeling for winning trophies and going far in tournaments with your club, then you want to try and replicate that with your country. Us qualifying for a tournament would be a huge step in that direction, but we know how hard it's going to be and we know what we need to do to try and achieve that.
Northern Ireland and Wales also play today. We'll bring you commentary of Croatia against Wales during this afternoon's 5 Live Sport. Ashley Barty says she wants to be the one dictating the match when she faces Marketa Vondrousova in this afternoon's French Open final. The world number 38 Vondrousova is a surprise finalist after an incredible fortnight at Roland Garros, but number 8 seed Barty wants to spoil the party.
Probably is most comfortable on the clay courts as opposed to any other surface. So I think she's got the ability to move the ball around the court, moves exceptionally well. So I think for me it's an opportunity to go out there and try and bring it back to my style of tennis as much as possible and know at times that it's not going to be in my control. It'll be an exciting final for both of us and yeah, we look forward to it.
And there'll be coverage of the women's final on the BBC Sport website and app this afternoon. That's following the conclusion of the men's semi-final between Novak Djokovic and Dominic Thiem. And Toronto Wolfpack owner David Argyle has stepped down as chairman and chief executive over racist comments that he made to a Swinton player following a championship game in April. Argyle says he's apologised to Jose Kenga and has fired himself. That's the latest from BBC Sport.
BBC Sport from BBC News.
The BBC.
Good morning, it's Adam here with your BBC News. One of the Conservative leadership candidates, Michael Gove, has said he took cocaine several times years ago. He said he used it at social events when he worked as a journalist. He's called it a mistake and says he regrets it. He's now the third of 11 leadership contenders to reveal drug taking. Rory Stewart said he smoked opium, and Jeremy Hunt revealed he had a cannabis drink whilst backpacking through India. Donald Trump says the US and Mexico have come to a deal on immigration. He had threatened to put tariffs on Mexican-made products being sold in America and increase them every month until that level reached 25%. The US hasn't got one of its big demands, though, for Mexico to take in asylum seekers heading for the US and process their claims there. A new law's come in named after a police dog from Britain's Got Talent. Finn is a German shepherd who was stabbed and seriously injured protecting a PC from attack. Finn's law makes it harder for people to claim self-defence as a reason for attacking animals used by the state. Scotland and Ireland are having an escalating row about fishing. The Scottish government has said it's going to start taking action against Irish boats found fishing near an uninhabited small landmass in the North Atlantic, which is claimed by Britain. It's 190 miles west of Scotland, and there's been extra activity there by Irish fishermen recently. A US crime writer has been dropped by her publisher because of the fallout from a Netflix series. Linda Fairstein was a prosecutor who was involved in the wrongful conviction of 5 black and Hispanic teenagers for a rape in New York Central Park in 1989. The boys, who were aged at the time between 14 and 16, were interrogated for hours with no lawyers present and no contact with their parents. They confessed, but later said they'd been coerced by police. Linda Fairstein watched that interrogation and gave the green light to the prosecution. The suspects spent between 6 and 13 years in prison and were released when someone else confessed to the crime. England's Cricket World Cup match with Bangladesh is looking a bit dicey because of the weather. It's supposed to start in Cardiff at 10:30 this morning. That's all your BBC News for now. Ask your device for more at any time.
That's all for now.
You're listening to Saturday Live here at Radio Lewes, where the music matters. My name's Ben Fuller. And we're into the second hour of the show, and we're going to continue with more wonderful music. This is the Velvet Underground.
Sunday morning brings the dawn in. It's just a restless feeling by my side. Early dawning, Sunday morning. It's just the wasted years so close behind. Watch out, the world's behind you. There's always someone around you who will call. It's nothing at all. Sunday morning, and I'm falling. I've got a feeling I don't want to know. Early dawning, Sunday morning. It's all the streets you crossed not so long ago. Watch out, the world's behind you. There's always someone around you who will call. It's nothing at all. Watch out, the world's behind you. There's always someone
Strange choice for a Saturday morning, but nevertheless you'll find that on Velvet Underground and Nico. It was released as a single from 1966. Now, I played this next track a little while back because it sort of felt like we were on a carousel without end, if you're thinking about the state of British politics at the moment, so I'm going to play it again. It's Stealers Wheel.
I fall off my chair, and I'm wondering how I'll get down the stairs. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, I'm stuck in the middle with you, and I'm wondering what it is I should do. It's so hard to keep the smile from my face. Losing control, yeah, I'm all over the place. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. When you started out with nothing and you're proud that you're a self-made man, and your friends they all come crawling, slap you on the back and say, please, try to make some sense of it all, but I can see it makes no sense at all. Is it cool to go to sleep on the floor? 'Cause I don't think that I can take anymore. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. And you started out with nothing and you're proud that you're a self-made man, and your friends they all come calling, slap you on the back and say, please, yeah, I don't know why I came here tonight. I got the feeling that something ain't right. I'm so scared in case I fall off my chair, and I'm wondering how I'll get down the stairs. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, I'm stuck in the middle with you. Stuck in the middle with you. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
From 1972 and their self-titled album, that was Stealers Wheel, Stuck in the Middle with You, and we do still seem to be in the same position. I saw a picture of the so-called runners and riders in the Tory leadership race the other day, and it did sort of answer a question I've been mulling over for a few years about what happened to the Backstreet Kids, except they seem to have been joined by Pob. Let's get on with it, no more politics, this is free.
There she stood in the street, smiling from her head to her feet. I said, hey, now, what is this? Now, baby, maybe she's in need of a kiss. I said, hey, what's your name, baby? Maybe we can see things the same. Now, don't you wait, oh, hesitate. Let's move before they raise the parking rate. Ow! All right now. let me tell you now. I took her home to my place, watching every move on her face. She said, look, what's your game, baby? Are you trying to put me in shame? I said, look, slow, don't go so fast. Don't you think that love can last? She said, love, love above. Now you're trying to trick me in love. All right now, baby, it's all right now. All right now, baby, it's all right now. Yeah, it's all right now. Let me tell you all about it now. Yeah. Took her home, yeah, to my place, watching every move on her face. She said, look, what's your game? Are you trying to put me in shame? Baby, I said, slow, slow, don't go so fast. Don't you think that love can last? She said, love, love above. Now it's time to trick me in love. All right now, baby, it's all right now. Yeah. All right now, baby, it's all right now. All right now, baby, it's all right. Yeah. All right now, baby, 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 it's all right. All right now, yeah, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right. Yeah. All right now, baby, it's all right now. Yeah, we're so happy together. Ow. It's all right, it's all right, it's all right. Everything's all right. Yeah.
From 1970, and I can't remember the name of the album. Never mind, it was a number one in over 20 territories. Fire and Water, that was the name of the album. There you go, that was free. Now for a bit more shameless self-promotion, we'll take a dip in the picker mix.
Hello everyone, by now you've probably worked out I like to sit down and have a chat with our DJs and have a nosy into what they're doing.
and I'm very pleased to say that I've finally tracked down Si Stonehouse.
Hello.
Hello, Si.
Wandering the streets, I was.
I actually thought I was going to have to abduct you at one point to get you in here, but I've run out of chloroform.
Busy man, you see.
So, Si, tell us a little bit about your show, because you've been doing Pick a Mix for a while now.
We've been doing, we started off doing Pick a Mix, 7 years ago. We did it on Rocket, and we'd just get into the flow of it. I'll go, yeah, this is really good. And then it would stop for a year. And then I'd go back the next year and forgot how to do it all. Yeah. And it'd take like 7 days for it to work, to get back into it. And then it would stop again. So I talked to John. Well, I sent John an email saying, can I do some radio shows? And he very kindly got us to come down, and we looked around and we went away, and then I couldn't do it. I didn't have the time. And Nick being in the early years of teaching, as she likes to say, she only limited time. So it went to bed for a while, and then you came on knocking on my door and said, do you want to do something?
Well, it didn't occur to John to offer you an afternoon, and it also didn't occur to him to speak to me about it. So as soon as I found out you wanted to be on the radio, I jumped at it. So doing an afternoon for me was easy. I am sorry to say Nick can't be with us. There is an empty chair.
And that's why it's so quiet, you see.
With a very sort of Nick-shaped hole.
Yeah.
So we're very sorry, and we're just going to have to put up with Si.
Yeah.
But what's Pick a Mix about?
Oh, Pick a Mix is mental. It's like, I just play all the music I want to hear. When you wake up in the morning, sometimes you've got earworms in your ears. They're on the show. You know, it's just, it could be anything. And then Nick just chats and rambles in between with, like, because we're brother and sister, we know what each other's thinking and what we're saying, so it becomes quite funny. It's normally about our parents, but
your poor old dad's getting paranoid, isn't he?
He's getting very paranoid now, yeah. Oh dear.
Well, you had all this music you couldn't play because Nick didn't like it. So you invented another show, and it sounds very familiar to me.
It's the Si Sounds show.
Si Sounds. Oh, yes, of course.
It's like that little emporium down in Station Street.
Well, you mean the Radio Lewes box office?
The Radio Lewes box office, yes. Yeah, and one of the stickers that are around the town, probably, you've seen.
Seen lots of stickers, yes.
I wanted to play stuff that I grew up listening to, bands like The Fall and Bauhaus and all the sort of punk, post-punk stuff. And Nick would sit there going, oh, I don't like this. And it didn't really fit in. So I decided, right, I'll do another one on my own. And it's good. It's good fun.
Well, it's certainly a good show, and it's getting a lot of listens, which is always good for us. Although I do hold a slight grudge, because I'm pretty sure you're nicking some of my listeners.
I'm aiming for the bedbound and people that can't reach the computer to turn it off.
Well, long may it rain, because it's really enlivened
Thank you.
our schedule, and of course it gives us a permanent link with the best independent music store in Sussex.
Yeah. At this moment in time, the only one.
It probably is, yes indeed.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for giving me your time.
Cheers. See you again.
Bye-bye.
Baby,
Meatloaf and Cher, of course, from 1981, from the album Dead Ringer, and that eventually got up to number 5 on the UK singles charts. A bit of T-Rex to follow.
It's good for my voice, but you won't fool the children of the revolution. Now you won't fool the children of the revolution. Now, no. Yeah!
Children of the Revolution. That never appeared on an album, but it was a number 2 hit single in September 1972. It broke their sequence of official single number 1s. The previous 4, Hot Love, Get It On, Telegram Sam and Metal Guru, all got to number 1. That one peaked at number 2. Now then, I think I'm going to give you the gig guide again. It's not very long, and in case you missed it, and frankly I'm looking for a gap filler. See, we tell the truth here at Radio Lewes. Saturday the 8th, that's today. Kit Trigg, Blues and Rock at the Lansdowne at 7:30. That one is free. And Jez Lowe doing Geordie folk guitar, mandolin and harmonica at the Elephant and Castle at 8 p.m. That one's £8 a ticket. Sunday the 9th, Rome are at the Royal Oak, Latin Swing and Blues Jam. That's 7 p.m. and it's free. And Peter Bruntnell, Americana at the Con Club, 7:30, and that's £12 a ticket. Monday the 10th, Raul de Oliveira's Quinto, Jazz at the Snowdrop at 8 p.m, and that's our favourite price. Tuesday 11th sees Concertina's Anonymous Practice Session, folk and miscellaneous at the Elephant and Castle at 8 p.m, and it's free. Wednesday the 12th sees Loz Kramer, Energetic Balkan and Mexican Gypsy Swing at the Lansdowne at 7:30, and again our favourite price. Saturday the 15th sees Don Letts bringing his DJ set back to the Con Club at 7:30. It's £15 a ticket, and you can pick them up from size still. Charlie Quinnell, folk, English and Scottish unaccompanied folk at the Elephant and Castle at 8 p.m, and that one is £6. Sunday the 16th, Sepia Shadows. It's a Sundays in the Bar session of a mix of blues, jazz and R&B at the Con Club at 3 p.m, and that one's free as well. Monday the 17th, Josephine Davis and Spike Wells and Nigel Thomas, Jazz at the Snowdrop at 8 p.m. for free. Saturday the 22nd, see Sandra Kerr. Everybody's a fan of Bagpuss knows who Sandra Kerr is. She co-wrote most of the songs and music for the much-loved children's TV show. Will be at the Elephant and Castle at 8 p.m, and that's £9. And the following day there will be a concertina and singing workshop there as well. All the Supernatural Things are doing a funk, soul and blues gig at the Royal Oak at 8 p.m. for free. Monday the 24th, Cameron Pierre and Terry Seabrook, jazz at the Snowdrop, 8 p.m. and again free. And Tuesday the 25th, English tunes practice session for any instrument, English traditional folk at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m. and again our favourite price. Saturday the 29th, Capella Folk, Old and New, Vocal Harmony at the Elephant and Castle, 8 p.m. That's £7 a ticket. And Loose Caboose are doing their DJ night featuring 60s soul, northern R&B, Latin and jazz at the Con Club at 7:30 for £6. Or at the Royal Oak you've got Love Action with Fruitful Sounds at 8 p.m. for a £5. Last one Sunday the 30th, Arcelia Sunday in the bar session with Folk and Soul Harmony Trio at the Con Club for 3:30, and the Soap Girls are punk at the Con Club at 7:30 for £12 a ticket. And one more, you actually have got Bad Manners on the 14th of July at the Con Club for £22. That's the gig guide for today, for the second time because I needed a gap filler. Never mind, let's have some more music.
what's in store. Love is the drug and I need to score. Showing up, hit and run. Boy meets girl where the beat goes on. Stitched up tight, can't shake free. Love is the drug, got a hook on me. Oh, catch that buzz. Love is the drug I'm thinking of. Oh, can't you see? Love is the drug for me. I park my car, stake my place in the singles bar. Face to face, toe to toe, heart to heart as we hit the floor. Lumber up, limbo down, the lost embrace, the stumble around. I say go, she say yes. Dim the lights, you can guess the rest. The drug I'm thinking of. Oh, can't you see? Love is a drug, got a hook in me. Oh, get that buzz. Love is the drug I'm thinking of. Oh, can't you see? Love, the drug for me.
Roxy music there from 1975. Love is the Drug from the album Siren. And before that, it was Blondie, of course. And picture this from Parallel Lines from 1978. Now, a band I haven't played in I don't know how long. This is Reef.
Oh, bless your hands on my
reckon to be Reef's best known hit from 1996, Place Your Hands On, was the first single from the band's second album, Glow, peaked at number 6 on the UK singles charts. Now to try and bring a little bit of culture to the show, we're going to have a chat with Classical Phil. I've finally caught up with our longest serving member, and that'll be Philippa. You've been here almost from the beginning, Phil.
Yes, I have. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I started off with a lady, I think that must have been about 2008, and then it was Paul, and then now it's Ben.
So tell me, how did you get started here at Radio Lewes?
I was approached by the director, John Russell, and I thought, oh wow, what does this entail? And just researching music and playing music, and so I'm feeding in the CDs because I have a disability and I just can't do that. And so I prepare my music each week, and that is it. And I love doing it.
Well, the show's called Classical Philippa, so obviously you play classical music, opera and ballet. Where did your love of classical music come from?
Well, I was thinking about this, and it really goes back to when I was about 6 or 7, and the music of Percy Grainger, An English Country Garden, and I thought, lovely, and we sang it, and then I went on to my next level of schooling, and I was sitting down listening to this record. It was Beethoven, and that started it basically all off.
So it's really been a lifelong passion for classical music. Well, that's wonderful. And can you please tell us what Radio Lewes means to you? Because you've stuck with us right from the very beginning.
It means loyalty, devotion, and Radio Lewes, well, it tells me some things I yet to discover about myself, and that's presenting. I never thought I would be able to do this. I've done it, and besides my eye problem, reading my notes and having to say, oh, go on, play, and then read my notes and then come up with the answer at the end. Shall we say the Sinfonia Orchestra of Berlin? It should have been the Berlin Symphonica. As Ben will know, he knows my writing. You can see it's a bit peculiar, but it's my eye disease I've got. So.
Well, it's perfectly obvious that you thoroughly enjoy it, as we all do. I hope you continue for a very long time. So, Phil, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Radio Lewes, for having me.
You're very welcome. The wonderful Philippa and the Classical Music Show, which is published every Tuesday afternoon. And I'm going to follow Classical Philippa with something completely inappropriate.
Pleasure is to blame. Ain't no difference That's the way I like it, baby. I don't want to live forever. And don't forget the Joker.
There you go, I told you. Ace of Spades, the title track from the fourth studio album by the wonderful Motorhead, released on the 8th of November 1980, and it's still a cracking sound. And we're going to follow that with some more British rock. This is Saxon. title track to Saxon's second studio album there, released 1980 and reached platinum status in the UK. I've only got time for one more track. Might squeeze in two if I can, but we're going to skip ahead to Simple Minds, I think, and a wonderful Alive and Kicking, and this is going to be the last one. So you've been listening to Saturday Live here on Radio Lewis, where the music matters. My name's Ben Fuller. Until next time, bye-bye.
You turned me on. You lit me up like the sweetest cup I share with you. You lit me up. Don't you ever stop. I'm here with you. Now it's all or nothing, 'cause you said you follow through. You follow me, and I follow. What you gonna do when things go wrong? What you gonna do when it all cracks up? What you gonna do when the love burns down? What you gonna do when the flames go up? Who's gonna come and turn the tide? What's it gonna take to make a dream survive? Who's got the time to calm a storm inside? Who's gonna save you? Alive and kicking. Stay until your love is alive and kicking. Stay until your love is, until your love is alive. You lift me up to the crucial top so I can see. You lead me on till the feelings come and the lights that shine on. But if that don't mean nothing, like if someday it should fall through, you take me home where the magic's from, and I'll be with you. What you gonna do when things go wrong? What you gonna do when it all cracks up? What you gonna do when your love burns down? What you gonna do when the flames go up? Who's gonna come and turn the tides? What's it gonna take to make a dream survive? Who's got the time to calm a storm inside? Don't say goodbye, don't say goodbye. In the final seconds, who's gonna say that? Ooh, oh, I
Local webcasting for a worldwide audience.